What is going on, Chelsea fans? Welcome back to the channel. We are sitting currently in an unbelievable position in the Premier League. And I don't think any of us thought that's where we'd be, to be honest. Third place behind Manchester City and Liverpool near the end of November. That's not too bad, is it? I mean, we hired a championship manager after all. No, look, in all seriousness, I am incredibly happy. Let's just sort out the line. Incredibly happy with where Chelsea are right now in the table. Because I'll be honest, there was a couple of seasons where I thought we might never be there again. It got that bad that I was genuinely concerned. And to be sat where we are right now, by hook or by crook, feels good. It feels like Chelsea are turning a corner. It feels like some of the players are turning a corner. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I'm pretty happy with where we are. I don't think Chelsea need to put too much pressure on ourselves to be in a title race, but I do think there can be some pressure applied now to making sure that we get top four, because we're going about our business. We're getting results against the teams that we should be getting results against. And for the most part, yeah, we know there's a couple of teams in the league that are better than us, or they're going to give us harder tests. And I think we're doing okay in that sense, in those fixtures. And that's why we are where we are in the league. If we'd done worse, we would have been a lot further down. So I'm happy with it. I think there's a lot of positives to talk about. We obviously haven't spoken since we beat Leicester. I was up at the game and I felt like that was a good performance, and at times very good. I thought for the first half an hour, Chelsea looked very comfortable in possession, had control of the game. I thought we were very effective. And then for the majority of the game after that sort of first half hour, it was a little bit more up in the air, but it wasn't too drastically bad that Chelsea were going to have any real threats of losing that game. Annoying that we gave the penalty away in the end, but look, that's sloppy. We got to do better there. Dan Knight, good to have you in here, says we should focus on getting back to the Champions League. We're not in a title race, we're in a top four race. I agree right now. I think a title race is, look, if we can keep the pressure on and come the end of the season we're close, then definitely be in the conversation. But right now, for me, top four is the utmost priority. We could be above Manchester City next weekend. I saw that. Look, it all depends on what happens with City, and they've got an incredibly tough game coming up next weekend. But yeah, look, so do Chelsea. We've got Aston Villa. It's not an easy game. That's never an easy game, Aston Villa. We've had some good games against Villa, and we've had some difficult games against Villa. And Villa are a good side. And I think actually, Villa's always a good judge of where you sort of are. If you can beat Villa comfortably, you're definitely moving in the right direction. If you struggle against Villa, you've got some work to do, because Villa are there or thereabouts when it comes to being in the race for Europe, aren't they? They're going to be around a sort of similar position to what Chelsea will probably end up finishing. I'll be real, though. I expect us to go and beat Villa. I really, really do. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about the Leicester game. If you haven't already, make sure to smash a like on the video. We're trying to get 30 likes on everything we do. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe as well, because we're trying to hit 3,000 before Christmas. I've been a little bit ill, so I've not been too much content up. By the way, is the camera okay? Because for me, it looks a little bit jumpy. I'm not too sure. But yeah, look, we do need to talk about a couple of pressing issues at Chelsea right now. We've obviously got pretty much just shy of a month to go until, or just a little bit over a month to go until Jan. Are there going to be any real things Chelsea need to do? Do we need to work on anything? Do we need to be bringing anyone in? And where do we stand currently with a couple of players? So let's get into it, shall we? Dan starts things off actually pretty well here, saying we need to talk about Reece James. For me, I'm never going to turn my back on Reece James. I know how good he can be. I actually, do you know, when I saw the news the other day, I have to say I really felt for him. I honestly felt sorry for the kid, because when's it going to stop? He cannot trust his body. His body is letting him down now, and that is a awful relationship to be in mentally and physically, and it's draining and it's hard and it's incredibly difficult. And I feel for Reece James, I really do, and I'll never turn my back on him. But what I will say is it's incredibly difficult when that player is your captain and that player is that good not to feel some sort of frustration, as I'm sure he does, and also to to feel like actually maybe we need to do something about that situation. I'd love to be able to sit there and play Gusto week in, week out, or Fofana, whoever's fit, and then say, look, Reece, we'll give you the opportunity when you're fit to just walk back in and start. But unfortunately, the more these injuries keep happening, I mean, football's football. If you can't play, you can't play, and the best ability is to be available. And I do worry what it looks like, but I'm not going to sit here and say we need to sell him, we need to move him on, because quite honestly, I don't want to, because I believe that he's still young enough that maybe with some correct changes, Reece James can be managed. Players like Ledley King had a career and they had really bad injuries, but they managed the situation. But I do think that maybe the captaincy might need to be reassessed, which is painful. And I think when Reece is there and he's available, he's a great leader. But you can't have your captain not available all the time. And I think that's incredibly harsh. And I do think that maybe the position needs to be addressed. That, look, Reece James maybe needs to become a luxury player in this Chelsea squad. When available, we know how good he is. But realistically, we probably need two right-backs that are fit and competing with each other at all times. And if Reece James is available, then we know what he offers. I don't know whether Chelsea can afford to hang on to a player like that, but I think if any club can, Chelsea could. And I think Reece has done enough for this club in a small space of time that really he probably has earned the chance. But incredibly difficult nevertheless. But I'm not going to sit here and start saying we need to sell him and move him on, because also, actually, I do understand that he's clear profit from a financial standpoint, but at the same time, the money we get for Reece James currently it isn't worth it. Chelsea would be in a better situation to hold on to Reece James and try to get him back to full fitness. And if they ever did want to move him on, then hopefully get a better fee. But for me, I just feel like I can give Reece the time he needs, but Chelsea at the same time need to make sure that their right back slot is covered, and whether that's a centre back that can play right back and Gusto, or another right back comes in, then that's just how it's going to be. Because ultimately, the bottom line here is that Reece, unfortunately, is no longer reliable. I mean, it's been too many seasons now. And also what I will say is, for Reece and his mental health, AC Milan have shown that Ruben can stay fit, that Pulisic can stay fit. Etihad have proven that N'Golo Kante can stay fit. Maybe you may find that your future lies elsewhere. Not that I want that to be the case, but maybe you might find that. I don't know. It's incredibly tough, incredibly tough. But let's talk about a little bit more of a positive, shall we? And the first one I'm going to start with is Cucurella. For me, Marc Cucurella is quite honestly one of the biggest turnarounds I can remember in a long time. Maybe the biggest turnaround, because Marc Cucurella was bought in for a big fee. We all know that. And he just straight off the bat didn't live up to it. Cucurella felt like we'd made a mistake. Felt like another signing that's come in that's not going to be able to deal with being at Chelsea, and we're going to have to move him on. And now look, Cucurella has turned it around unbelievably. I mean, after that game, you can see he's absolutely buzzing. He's really sort of thankful to the fans and appreciative. They pushed him out on his own and they were singing the song to him. And honestly, I have to say fair play, because he's shown something there that not everyone's able to do. How many players have come to Chelsea and they've just wilted away? Cucurella's fought back to show every single one of us how good he can possibly be. And there are so many players that Cucurella has come up against now, like Dan says, that he's just won the battle and looked absolutely unbelievable. And he's gone on to win massive trophies now. He won the Euros in the summer. I don't think we're far away from saying that's the best left back in the Premier League. I think Vardio is probably there, but Cucurella is very, very good. And for me, is probably indispensable right now on Chelsea's left-hand side. And I think the fact he was dropped the other week was very, very confusing. But I have to say, a quality player. And I love the way that he's turned things around, because there was a time when I thought the writing was on the wall for him. And I think if you asked him, he'd say, look, his performances weren't great. But after a while, he kind of has understood what it is to be Chelsea. I think he's a leader in his own way on the pitch. And I think technically he's coming into fruition now to show that he really is a good player. He's not just 110% and he's throwing himself around the pitch. No, this is a guy that can actually put the ball on the floor and play football and actually be an asset. And that cross that he put in for Jackson at the weekend that ultimately led to Enzo's goal just shows that he's willing to be on the ball in any sort of situation on the pitch, whether he's closed down on the halfway line or he's near his own goal defensively or he's attacking. I think he's a very versatile player that's obviously had a great footballing education. And I think it was so strange that it didn't sort of click straight away when Graham Potter was his manager at Chelsea. But right now, we are seeing a really, really good player there in Cucurella. And I have to say, and congratulations and commend him that he's been able to do this, because a lot of players don't have the strength of character to turn a corner like that. What I will say is Enzo Fernandez, in a much smaller window, has started to sort of turn a corner as well. I went on Chelsea Fan TV a couple of weeks ago and I said, look, Enzo had a really good game against Noah. I think he got 3 assists. He had a great first half. And I just felt, we found a position now that looks like you're a little bit more comfortable. Let's try and build off of that game. You know, you've got all this stuff going on in your personal life. You've got all this injury history from the back of last season. Let's try to put some of that behind us and build. And that's exactly what Enzo seems to be doing. I mean, against Leicester, we played really with one DM. He was a lot higher up than he's been in recent weeks, but he still is probably on a bit of a high confidence-wise. And I felt like he got about the pitch a little bit better than I've seen him do in recent times for Chelsea. And I feel very comfortable with Enzo Fernandez on the pitch right now. I have to say that. I would like to see a midfield partnership with Enzo and Lavia throughout the season. Look, I have to say I wouldn't be dropping Casado at any point, but what I will say is there was a point when Enzo Fernandez used to be on the team sheet, or he would come on and I'd think to myself, oh, we look weak in midfield today with him in there. But the last couple of weeks, every time I've seen his name, I felt like, actually, no, I know what he's going to do now in this role. I know what he's about. And a team like Leicester is the exact game where I believe he can have an effect. What I will say is, look, he scored and he got an assist. Fair play. What I will say is, though, I'm not sure it's worth him being deployed in the same area that we've seen Cole Palmer thrive. Maresca seems to be sitting with this thing where he wants Cole Palmer to sort of drift out towards that left-hand side pocket, where I just don't think we're getting the best out of Cole Palmer there. Enzo pushed up, obviously, from where he was into that right-hand side sort of pocket because Fofana didn't bomb forward as much. I'm not sure on that. I think we'll see with time how that ends up looking. But what I will say is, Enzo, keep this up. We're moving in the right direction. You're looking very, very competent. You're looking like a player that we thought we might have bought. I think you can quite clearly see how important the competition is throughout the squad, because if a player isn't playing, they're up in their level. They're showing that they can be at a better level. Look, João Felix is an interesting one for me. João Felix obviously got the chance to play if you looked at the team sheet, he would have been left wing in terms of how we started, but he definitely didn't play on the left throughout the whole game. He was in the centre and he was getting on the ball and he was trying to make things happen. I would say to no avail. I think it was a really strange game for João Felix. I actually thought that maybe Nkunku would have been given more of a crack of the whip than what he was, because I think Nkunku's shown this season that he's probably a little bit more clinical than João Felix, but I think the jury is out on him from Maresca's side of things, which is a shame. And with the amount of limited minutes that he's had, he's not exactly been able to hit the ground running in Premier League football, Nkunku, but João Felix is one that I think the board probably feel that he's wage-wise in the right sort of bracket. I think Nkunku's probably on a little bit too much money. They don't like that now. We know the wage structure at Chelsea has changed. And I think Nkunku is the type of player that Chelsea will be looking to move on. I think the nail is in the coffin for me now, to be honest. Unless there's an injury, and even if there is, I still think it might be. I believe Nkunku will probably move in January, which is such a shame, but I think he'll move. But as a performance goes, I thought it was okay, but some things reared their head again, to be honest with you. I think Madueke had an okay game, But I think, again, we saw that potentially we could definitely do better with that position. I thought on the left, I actually felt a little bit for Mudryk. I thought Mudryk might have had a chance to get some minutes in this game. I even thought he could have been in for a shout for a start. To not get any, well, I mean, I was really surprised. I hope there's not an injury there. I would say he'll probably get the full 90 or as close as possible against Heidenheim. But I think Chelsea are definitely in a good position to build now and really try and get this team firing on all cylinders, because I think I said it a little bit earlier, we've got some players last year who weren't performing now at a good or they weren't available now at a really good level, and we've got some players that were flying last year and they're not at their level that we've seen them be at before. And I think if we could get everyone firing at all times on all cylinders, we would be at, maybe we would be in a title race. You know, that's how it could be. Look, Sanchez, I was about this close to him at the weekend. I could almost see his exact view, and I have to say, I do not understand what is going on in his head with some of his decision making. Like there was a pass at one point where he played the ball on the edge of the box to Casado, and I just, it was never the right pass, and it baffles me because there's never a moment in my head that, and I'm not a Premier League goalkeeper by any means, but that, and I'm not afraid of these. I know these players are good enough to receive the ball in a lot of situations, but where he gave the ball to Casado, that's not safe. He did it the other week with Renato Vega in one of the European games, and we conceded. That is just, I don't know if that's a pattern of play that they've been working on and they want to work, but for me, that just, I don't get easily uncomfortable watching players trying to play out from the back, where I know a lot of people do, and I can understand that these players, they do it in way smaller areas in training and they keep the ball. But that moment there, that makes me uncomfortable, because that's the one where I think, hang on, that is overplaying. I don't understand the purpose there. That one, the risk, like it's not getting the reward that it should be getting there. It's just not worth it. So for me, that has to go. I don't actually think Chelsea are going to buy a goalkeeper in January. I don't think we are. I think we spent too much money on Penders and we spent too much money on Jorgensen. If Chelsea go and recruit a goalkeeper in January, I'll be very, very surprised. I'll be incredibly shocked, actually. He does that. Dan, you're bang on. Sanchez is a goalkeeper that I think makes a lot of people nervous, the Chelsea fan base. I think he makes the defence in front of him nervous, which again had more changes at the weekend. I thought Badashile looked very, very good. That's Badashile at his best. On the ball, passing range, fantastic. Read the game very, very well. Composed. Badashile is one of those guys that seems to be affected heavily by confidence as well. And when he makes a mistake, he obviously takes a while to recover from it, and he needs to feel the belief and the trust from his manager and his other players. And I think, actually, he had a good game. Levi Colwell had a good game, considering Levi's been ill as well. I think he had a tremendous game. Fofana at right back. I think what Fofana shows at right back is you don't have to have a player bombing forward on the right-hand side all the time, or the left. Actually, they can be limited and just do their job defensively, and it can be a massive asset. And I think we saw that with Fofana. When Cucurella bombed forward, that defence shifted round to a 3, and it looked okay. And then when he didn't, obviously it was a very solid back 4 without the ball, and Fofana was winning his duels out there on the right-hand side. I was pretty happy with most of it, to be honest. I just felt there were a couple of cracks where Leicester were able to get through that were slightly worrying. I think a better team probably scores, but I think off the back of an international break, that's not such a bad result. I don't think the performance is perfect, but off the back of an international break where we really struggled last year, getting a result away from home is a good result, however you dress it up. Yes, I think it probably should have been 2-0, and I would have felt fairly happy with that. The fact it was 2-1 is a little bit more frustrating, but look, it is what it is. And I think going forwards with, let's say, that lineup, I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's going to stay, because I just don't think, well, obviously the right back sort of situation would be addressed. I'm sure a right back would probably be playing there. I think more than likely, if we play one DM against weaker sides, I mean, maybe it'll be Enzo Fernandez, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think the João Felix experiment worked that well, and I'm actually pretty sure that going forwards there would be Neto or Mudryk playing. Neto obviously had a knock, so maybe they felt like Neto was always going to play that game, and then João Felix was given a chance. And I have to say, Nicholas Jackson, keep doing what you're doing. Fantastic again. His finish on the outside of his boot over the keeper into the corner of the net is fantastic. But it was the work rate and the determination in that battle with Wout Faes from like the halfway line to just keep going, relentlessly trying to win headers, trying to chest the ball, trying to just battle your way through to get to a point where we then all of a sudden had a chance on goal. And then Enzo obviously came in to help and then knocked the ball back to Jackson, who took a touch and finished fantastically well. That's a great goal. That's everything that sort of sums up Jackson in a nutshell, is his hard work, his desire, relentlessness, the ability now to have composure in front of goal, which we felt he lacked a lot of last season. I have to say, Nicholas Jackson is a player that is moving in the right direction and at an incredibly fast rate. This is a guy that, for me, I think he's probably on course to hit 20 Premier League goals this season. I think he probably is. Whether or not he will, I'm not sure, but I think he'll be there or thereabouts because there's no international break this year, and if Chelsea, or no AFCON either, and if he keeps moving in the right direction, I genuinely think we might have to have a discussion that the type of striker we bring in isn't better than Jackson. You know, big up, Mafia. Good to have you in here. I think he needs some competition. I think Dan actually hits the nail on the head here. I think Jackson needs competition. I think competition has been shown to be incredibly healthy. I think actually it's turned out that the right thing to do wasn't replace Jackson in the summer, was to actually be confident in him and sort of show him, yeah, look, we'll give you another chance. We know you're good enough. Because now, if you brought in competition, I think he'll back himself. I think he's matured a lot in a short space of time. And I think he'd feel like, okay, I'm Chelsea's number 9. Come and remove me from my post because I'm scoring goals here. I'm doing my job. I'm doing everything this team needs right now. You have to come in and be better than me. And I think Jackson would absolutely back himself. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't take pens either. Jackson is a very, very competent number 9. But what I think needs to happen is, whereas I would have said, look, don't get me wrong, if Chelsea go and bring in a Gyökeres or they go and bring in like an Isak or an Osimhen, I'm not going to moan. I'm not. I'm going to say, fair enough. It's up to them to perform. The best player will ultimately end up running the show. What I think you have to be careful of is harmony, because Jackson's doing a good job now. Don't limit Jackson. Push him to be better. Do you then buy someone that isn't better than Jackson but adds incredible competition? And I think that's where the likes of a Liam Delap come into the conversation. I'm not saying that's the answer, by the way, but when I look at the players that Chelsea have signed, I think of Joe Shields, especially Manchester City former academy players, that a young player that has a lot of potential. Liam Delap looks like a player that I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea were on the phone to already, sort of saying, would you be interested in a move? We know how good you are. We believe in you. And also, if Jackson does go to AFCON or Jackson gets an injury, Liam Delap has shown that he's quite comfortable playing Premier League football. And I actually think, if Jackson was in the Conference League, I think he'd be absolutely flying. We have competition everywhere, but the 9 position, Nkunku is... Yeah, I think this is so important. I think whoever identified Nkunku as being a striker has got it incredibly wrong. Because actually you're hindering Nkunku, and who is a fantastic player, you are hindering him massively. I think, Dan, right now, if he got injured, it would be Nkunku. It would be João Felix, someone like that. But this is what I'm saying. I think Chelsea have to go and buy a striker to make sure we've got cover. But I think maybe that striker isn't a £100 million striker, a £60 million striker in Osimhen Gyökeres. I wonder whether it's Liam Delap. I don't know what he'd cost, but I think that's the type of signing I could see Chelsea making. Yeah, this is what I'm saying, Matt. I've got a funny feeling. I'm not sitting here trying to like start off a rumour and stuff like that and be like, oh, I was the first one to say it. Every time I watch Liam Delap play, I think actually that's the type of striker that succeeded at Chelsea in the past. And he looks really competent. And I think he'd do a really good job right now of giving Jackson the competition that he needs. but also understanding where he is in terms of he's not playing for Ipswich anymore. He's playing for a team that are potentially pushing to be in the top four and trying to win titles. I don't know how many goals Liam Delap can bring to this Chelsea team, but I think he'd be a really, really good addition. And being ex-Man City Academy, I think the writing could be on the wall that Chelsea are well aware of the quality of some of those players. They definitely are, because of some of the staff that we've got working for us. So let me know your thoughts on that, because I think he could be a very, very good addition, actually. I don't want to do, I want to be careful here, because I don't want to kill the momentum and the player that Nicholas Jackson is turning into, because I think there aren't many better in the Prem right now. I really don't think there are many better. I think he's within the top 3 strikers right now. And I believe he's on the trajectory to be competing with those, apart from the numbers that Haaland is able to get. I don't ever see Jackson putting up the numbers that Haaland's done in a few seasons gone by, but I do see Jackson being good enough to actually earn Chelsea points now. You know, I think last season we said at times that Jackson was good, but he wouldn't necessarily be the match winner. He might score if we won by 3 goals or scored 3 goals. He might get one of those goals, or he might score the easiest chance. You go and look at his goal catalogue this season, he isn't scoring the easiest chance. He's scoring he'll get 1 or 2 opportunities in a game, and he's taking it, and he's finishing it with ease. And if he doesn't, he actually contributes. He headed the ball that led to Enzo's goal as well. I mean, their link-up was very good. Jackson's link-up with a lot of those players is good. And if you listen to Nicholas Jackson, by the way, in his post-match interviews, he sounds incredibly mature and completely different to last season. He's come on leaps and bounds for me. This is a worrying one, Matthew, because he's doing so well without it. Unless he really wants it, I just don't understand why. Could he put the 9 curse to bed? Maybe. If I was Jackson, I'd just stick with the number you've got, mate, and crack on, because that 9 shirt at Chelsea, I mean, that comes with some serious weight and some serious, not weight necessarily, but a curse. Like, who was Chelsea's last great 9? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. So, for me, I'd stay away from that, man. I think Bullaru's at the number 9. Yeah, I think Bullaru's at the 9, and I genuinely think it hasn't been good since. Everyone on the team loves Jackson. I think they do. And you know what? There were moments last year when Jackson was... You remember the bit with the penalty where he really wanted the penalty and he really wanted to take it off Cole Palmer, and he showed a bit of, I don't know, immaturity, if you like, or just, I get it, it's selfishness because you're struggling, you want to score, but actually what that's done is he's realised he isn't going to get the penalties now. And it's basically made him think, I've got to get better. I'm not going to get goals through penalties now. I have to make sure I'm doing it on the pitch. And I believe, listening to him, this is a guy that has really come on in terms of ability on the pitch, and actually the way he acts and the way he sort of handles himself now is a maturity above his years, beyond his years. Very, very good player. Chelsea have absolutely struck gold with him, I think, being 30 million for the amount of goals in his output right now and what he does on the pitch for Chelsea is an absolute bargain. Well, you've overspent for a lot of players. This one, I mean, we got him for way below market value of what he's currently worth. Let's see what you're saying. The 9 should remain vacant until someone scores 100. Do you know what? I'd hope that it wouldn't change anything, but I would want him to go and score 200, and I hope the 9 shirt wouldn't prohibit him. I don't want to be superstitious, but for some reason, that 9 shirt hasn't had much luck. I think it takes a special caliber of striker to succeed at Chelsea. I think you have to be arrogant, you have to be cocky, you have to back yourself. But at the same time, you've got to understand what it is to be Chelsea, what it is to be at the club, a certain type of mentality. And I think in my time, Didier Drogba's had that. Jimmy Floyd's had that. I think Diego Costa's had that. And other than that, I don't think anyone's quite got to that level. I think some players have been very, very good. Tammy had a good season one year, and I think other players have had that. Nicholas Jackson... he might have that, you know. He might have that. I think we'll see how that develops, but he might. Year 3, number 9, Jackson. Costa, 19. Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, look, honestly, if that 9 shirt was never given to another player, fair enough. Or I'd love to give it to another player and they'd like break the curse and score a stupid amount of goals in it. That'd also be fantastic. But yeah, look, Chelsea are moving in the right direction. There's no doubt about that. We're flowing. We're playing better football than we were this time last year. We've made improvements. Maresca is... I think Maresca loves a bit of a medal. I think Maresca loves to tweak things, loves to try out little like ideas he's got in his head. I wonder when he learns his best team and he no longer has to do that, if that ever becomes the case, whether we'll start to see this Chelsea team then truly flourish. I'd have to ask Leicester fans whether they felt that he's done that for them over a period of time. Because I think he might be a little bit of a meddler. And that worries me because I saw Ranieri do that against Monaco and just tried too much to sort of, too many experiments. It just didn't work. Actually, sometimes keeping things simple actually really does help the players out on the pitch. So, look, let's see what happens with that. I think Chelsea are in a really good position. Badiashile did look very, very good. Do you think Drogba becomes Drogba without Mourinho? I'm not sure that he does. I think Drogba was in a very good position when he came in, but I think Mourinho really did work with him. I think Ancelotti as well, by the way. I think Carlo probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, but arguably one of Drogba's best ever seasons with Ancelotti at the helm. That's true. That's true, Matt. I actually, fair play. There was a moment, wasn't there, where Nkunku got tackled and he went down. And I thought, oh, here we go again. And he got up and he kind of looked a bit shy. It was very late on in the game. Whereas João Felix got up. And I think he just like the next moment, we've seen him get sent off for Chelsea before. So don't forget that. But he flew in and he gave it back a bit. And I felt like Leicester were incredibly dirty. And they were incredibly difficult to play against for some of our more tidier, silkier players. Because every time they tried to do something and manipulate the ball in a way that got them past or away from that player, the next moment they were absolutely I mean, indeed, he probably should have been sent off. It looked like a really bad challenge. João Felix was on the end of some pretty naughty tackles. I mean, they had a guy, I think they're number 11. I thought he was incredibly dirty and very close to the line for me for being able to stay on the pitch, because there were definitely more than 3 or 4 yellow card offences for him. But look, the Leicester game's not perfect, but off the back of an international break, getting that result away from home, keeping us where we are in the table, that's all I want, really. I expect us to obviously go and play Heidenheim off the park in the Conference League. They didn't get a great result at the weekend. But going into that Villa game, I think Chelsea just need to be up for it, need to be resolute, need to be ready for it. It's going to be incredibly tough. We'll build up to it this week, talking about it and where we are, but I think, wait, Mafia, why did you feel like that, by the way? Apparently Vardy was injured, but Vardy, that felt like Leicester are going to have to work on getting themselves a striker, aren't they? Because that isn't the Jamie Vardy we all knew. Rob Sanchez. Yeah, I was going to say, if Sanchez is the one you felt like we were playing with 10, you might want to knock it down to 9, because Sanchez is woeful. He causes such an issue, but I actually thought, for the most part, most people had a good game. I don't think João Felix had the desired output he wanted. Cole Palmer probably didn't have the desired output. I know Madueke got in the way of that shot, but Palmer, again, was relatively quiet. And Madueke out on the right, again, had moments, but there's a little bit of selfishness there in his game that I think at times he could do with removing. Yeah, look, he's a player that's moving in the right direction. Chelsea Blue, good to have you in here, mate. It's definitely not Bob, by the way. It's a D, just to let you know. Once all their 3 of them midfielders got yellow, yeah, I agree. They're kind of... Look, Leicester... Be careful here, Chelsea fans, because some people I heard being like, oh, yeah, Chelsea are great. We're quietly going about our business. We're in a battle for this, blah, 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 blah. Hang on a minute. We just played a Leicester team that have been pretty poor this season, and they've sacked their manager. They could go down if things don't drastically improve. For me, I wouldn't get too excited off the back of that. I just think we've gone about our business. We got 3 points. build on that, get some momentum going again, because we haven't had enough wins in recent weeks. It's only 2 wins in the last 6. We've somehow managed to keep ourselves in a very good position in the Premier League. Let's start moving forward again, because I don't think in the last month and a half, 2 months, we've seen the type of football that was scaring teams at the beginning of the year. I think Maresca's removed that from this side. And for me, that's something I wouldn't have removed. When was the last time you saw this Chelsea side look scintillatingly good on the counter-attack like we did at the beginning of the season against Wolves, Brighton, West Ham? I haven't seen that in a while. And I know maybe teams have wised up to us and how we're going to play. But at the same time, I see Maresca telling us to be slower and calm down an awful lot on the touchline. I just think we need to be careful. So let's see. Big up, my man. Great to have you on. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing from Chelsea at the moment, because I think sometimes I can moan and be a little bit like, oh, come on, we could do a little bit better. But I'm always searching for perfection, because I want Chelsea to win the Premier League. I want Chelsea to win the biggest trophies. And until you're perfect, you can't do that. So I'm not being negative. I'm just saying it how it is. I think a lot of you guys that are here week in, week out, you get that. And that's why we have these conversations. So appreciate all of you smashing the like. If we can hit 30, that'd be unbelievable. The thing I've seen since the Liverpool game is yeah, I agree, right, Mafia? I think that Liverpool game, a lot of people are like, hang on, Chelsea didn't win that, but we need to take them seriously. I also think the Brighton game absolutely made people aware of Cole Palmer, by the way. That Brighton game, people were like, hang on, this guy has just done that. Double up, tackle him, make this guy's life as difficult as possible. Maresca moved him out to the left against Newcastle, and he's not been great since. I don't know why we've done that. I don't think his performances were worse on the right than they've been out towards the left. I really don't think they have. And at times, actually, I felt like he tried to stay more central this week. I felt like he did. And he just got mobbed by Leicester's midfield because they were just throwing tackles in on him left, right and centre. I don't look at Cole Palmer and think he's a Kevin De Bruyne, by the way. I don't know what everyone else thinks of this. I don't look at him and think he's an Odegaard. I just don't see that. I look at him and I think that's a Mahrez type player. I just don't. Maybe I've got it wrong, but I just don't see a De Bruyne type of 10 player there, an Odegaard type of 10 player or centre midfielder that can play in that role. I just don't see that with Palmer. I see an incredibly gifted player who thrives out towards the right-hand side of the pitch, like Mahrez, and is wonderful in transition. And I just think the way Chelsea are playing right now and where they're asking Cole Palmer to play, neither is going to get the best out of him. I just think that's the case. We need to go on a winning streak to secure. Yeah, we do. We definitely need to put some wins together. We've got Villa and we've got Spurs. And other than that, I think most of our games, they're definitely winnable. Yeah, look, my only issue is once we win, it's always something wrong with the team. Liverpool had to work hard for their 3 points. No, they did. I think what it is if we win a game like we did against Leicester, you know you're only playing Leicester. But against Liverpool, there were issues that we could have done a bit better because we didn't win that game. We ended up didn't even draw it. We lost it. No, wait, hang on. No, we did lose it. Did we? Yeah, we lost. So I think it's frustrating. But there's always going to be tweaks and improvements until you're getting perfection. And then I'm talking to Liverpool fans that are winning every week and they're in a really good position. And they're telling me that, we could have done a little bit here and we could have done a little bit there and we could improve. They're top of the league. I think there's always going to be a search for perfection because of how good Pep Guardiola's got his Manchester City side to be, or Klopp's had his Liverpool sides to be, because they got so many points and were so consistent over those seasons that actually those teams were very, very close to perfection. And I think it's always going to be easier to nitpick something that someone does wrong than praise something that someone does right. I think that's always the case. It's a lot easier to criticize than it is to praise. But we need to be realistic here on this channel. We'll sit both sides and we'll just say it how it is. Yes, there are things Chelsea can do better right now. And yes, there are things that Chelsea are doing wonderfully well. That is a big improvement of last year. Big, big improvement. My biggest worry, though, is that Cole Palmer was quite clearly Chelsea's best player, head and shoulders above a lot of players in the Premier League last season. And this season, he's not quite there. And I think there are obvious changes that have happened with Cole Palmer that I'm not sure were needed, to be honest with you. I think people were getting carried away with that he was being quiet in games because I think he was still having an impact. I think he really was. I think now he's arguably quieter than he was before the Newcastle game, even though he scored in that one. No one else. Yeah, well, yes, I hear that. I do a bit, like, I think Pedro Neto was starting to get a bit of hype and people were going, be careful of him too, be careful of Jackson. That's exactly it, right? When you think about Manchester City, right? They built that team up to have like De Bruyne, Mahrez, times Sane, Sterling, Aguero through the middle, and Jesus. And then all of a sudden, they would look at the team and go, there are too many players here. We cannot afford to double mark because if we free up one player, the other person will thrive. I think eventually Chelsea have to get their team to that level where every player is a goal threat going forwards, and then teams will not be able to just try and mark one player out of the game. Cole Palmer got absolutely clout of the weekend, though. I agree, Mafia, by the way. And I think the fact we didn't get the clean sheet, it was really disappointing. I think probably, yeah, you're right. That game, we could have got 4 goals against Leicester, if we're being real. I actually think if it hadn't been off the back of the international break and we were playing more like we were at the beginning of the season, we might have got 4 in that. Yeah, well, Colwell was injured. There's no doubt about it for me. When they finally got, I don't know if anyone saw it on the TV, but Colwell couldn't even stand up towards the end of the game. He was running, holding the middle of his body. I don't know if he was going to be sick. I know they said he was ill. He was not 100% fit, and Levi played through it. Gusto has been ill, and he didn't play at all. I can't remember, did he come on? I don't think he did. But Levi Colwell was ill, and he was not in 100% shape at all, and he battled through it because he's a warrior. And that's why, for me, if I'm being honest with you guys, I think Levi Colwell is probably Chelsea's biggest leader on the pitch right now. And I actually think Levi Colwell, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, and I'd love you to tell me, but do you think he has a right to the Chelsea captaincy instead of Reece James now? Like, would you, if Levi was wearing that armband every week, what would you say? Because I'd love to know. I'd love to know what you think, because when I look at it, I think that he could quite comfortably be Chelsea's new captain. To be honest with you, I think he's been really, really impressive. Jackson had a great game. How long? I don't know with Reece. I don't like to put a time on it anymore because I just don't know. I don't know. Casado for me, scary how much we lost. Yeah, and you know what, Matt? He played as one single DM, and he on his own showed how good he is. And I think last year we didn't see that. Cole was yes and no. I think sometimes he's maturing a bit. Levi, what do you think of signing Chris as a backup to Jackson? Wait, Chris who? Just out of interest, do you mean Chris Wood? I don't know. Or do you mean Nkunku? You think we signed? If Chelsea signed Nkunku as a striker, and that's what they think that he is, that's where they've gone wrong. By the way, massively where they've gone wrong. That's just the whole issue there. He's never, ever, ever going to be that type of player. He's not a striker. I think we've got that one massively wrong if that's how we've recruited him, to be honest with you, because I just don't believe Christopher Nkunku is a striker. Levi keeps strikers on side. Yeah, look, he is right now, that Leicester game, he's not 100% fit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Chris Wood, no, Chris Wood's way too old. I think they signed Nkunku under a different methodology, a different ideology. I think they signed Nkunku as a player that was going to be the marquee, was on a lot of money, was signed by Vivell, probably. And I think it's just not gone that way. I think Chelsea have moved in a slightly different direction since we signed Nkunku. And I think if Nkunku had been flying, they might have been able to turn a blind eye. But now he's not, and he's not always fit. And right now he's having a good season, but he's not performing in the Prem. I think they might move him on. I think this is true. I actually think Delap, yeah, potentially. I think this is probably true as well. I don't think anyone expected Cole Palmer to be at the level he's at, to be honest. I just don't think Cole Palmer was signed to be as good as he's been. I just don't believe anyone knew Cole Palmer was gonna be that good. Cole Palmer's been absolutely fantastic for Chelsea, and a very, very good player. But look, guys, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 3,000. Make sure to smash a like. I'm going on Judge Mo's channel now, 2 o'clock, Rational League. Every Monday and Friday we do that show. I'm on there with a few others. We talk about football hopefully in a rational way. Never gets too over the top. But look, an absolute pleasure chatting to every single one of you. We're going to try and run more lives on this channel. We're going to try and just sit down, have a chat on the regular, air out what's going on with Chelsea. So if you're enjoying it, make sure to tune back in. What I'll do, I'll try and like pre-arrange the lives so you guys know when they're happening, because I appreciate if I just go live, you can't always all jump in. But if you know I'm there, then you can prepare yourselves to come and have a chat. But look, absolute pleasure speaking to every single one of you. I love this community that we're building. 30 likes is always the goal. I'll catch you over there on Mo's channel if you want to come and have a watch. If not, I'll see you back in the next video on here. Absolute pleasure, and keep the blue flag flying high.